EGM Network.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. This is Bill Crafton from Vero Beach, Florida, and we're here with the once again with the Evergreen folks doing our 11th podcast, and Sir Patlin LLC is sponsoring the podcast today, and Sir Patlin, we sell third-party tax certificates, and we buy them and take the risk, and if we were to sell it to you, you're going to take the risk just like us. That's how it works. By the way, I never leave home without my American Express card, as everybody knows, right, Jesse?
That's right, Bill.
And then, therefore, I never do a podcast without Jesse. Now, Jesse, I let you off easy last week. Podcast number 11. Who wore number 11 for the Boston Red Sox in 1957, 58, and 59? Come on, Jesse, I'm sure you know.
Johnny Oates.
No, Frank Malzone.
Okay.
And where did Frank play?
Sounds like a second baseman.
No, third base, but that was close.
Base.
Infield. All right, third base. And in 57, 58, and 59, what was his claim to glory?
He's the only left-handed third baseman in the league.
No, he won 3 Golden Gloves in those years. He was a hell of a baseball player.
Fielder. All right.
I really like Frank Malzone. He was a real quality guy.
All right.
Hey, we're here doing this podcast, and we're trying to get the truth out and compare different things that politicians say and to do a little research on it and see what's going on. But it's key to understand. I'm not a Dem. I'm not a Republican. I'm an American. And as American, my motto is we do a lot better from a political system in the federal government than what we're getting. I had a couple of good experiences this past week. My daughter sent out some information on their Facebook pages, and I got some nice response back from some of those people. So it does encourage me to continue the process here, continue beating myself up, trying to get a message out. So thanks to all my daughters for everything that they have done. And I also ran into a gentleman today, actually, Randall. He's over at the Indian River Park, and not Indian River, the Riverside Park. He's over at the Riverside Park, and he just happened to stop and said, "Hey, how was the podcast going?" We talked about politicians and stuff briefly, and suddenly I realized he says, "Well, I really, really disappointed in politicians, And then I thought about it, and I says, "Well, I am too, obviously."
Yeah.
And he says, "Well, we continue talking." And he said, "You just can't trust them." And I says, "You know what? You're right. But why are you right? I think you're an honest guy. And honest people would like to hear honest things from their politicians. And most politicians, I don't think, are very honest. So we don't hear honest things from our politicians. So anyway, that's my viewpoint is we don't get the straight scoop from our politicians. We get the propaganda stuff that they want to spread around. And basically, as far as all I am concerned is we deserve better as Americans. And I want to go to the billionaire video that we can show you the. Oh yeah, well, one other thing. I need a guest. I almost forgot. See, I need a guest to come on the show that's got some tax experience and with billionaires. Billionaires give away a lot of appreciated assets, paper stock, so to speak. They don't pay any taxes on it. They skip the 20% tax. But I'd like to have a professional explain it rather than me try to muddle my way through it. And if I can get a volunteer in the next week or two, that'd be great. If not, I guess you'll hear me trying to muddle my way through it to try to explain all the ins and outs of it, which is a process in a way, unless you're in the game. So if I can find someone that's in the game that totally understands it, would love to have you on. You don't have to come into the studio. We can set you up off-site and just have a conversation about it. And I want to hear what you'd have to say. So anyway.
So reach out. Email wakeupamerica@gmail.com. Or is there a better way to reach you, Bill?
That's probably the best way to start with, for sure.
All right.
And we have a little video. Billionaires don't pay taxes, by the way.
What if you're a billionaire like Trump or Musk? Your Social Security tax would be effectively, on my understanding,
Very, very much smaller.
0.0002.
Yes.
That just doesn't make sense to me. And when the richest people in the country have the smallest effective tax rate, That does not seem to me like a very fair system, especially when we are now 6 years away from retired workers facing this 24% cut in their Social Security benefits.
Wake up, America, 24% cut coming, okay? And I'll be getting into that in the next week and the week after. But billionaires don't pay taxes, and we're going to have to pick up the slack here. We're going to have to pay more taxes, okay? Then we had the NASA global warming video that climate change, global warming.
Yeah. Yeah, so this illustrates how the planet has been heating up since 1880. Started off, you know, it looks blue in that in the picture. -3 Fahrenheit goes up to 1950s to about 0 Fahrenheit, you know, change, and now it's getting warmer and warmer, 1, 2, 3 degrees above normal Fahrenheit as we age into 2020s.
Yeah, the thing with this is it's a video. It's from NSA, NASA, and it's legitimate, folks. Unfortunately, anybody on the radio can't see it, but you can always tune in a podcast to see the video. If you think climate change is a hoax that some people try to promote, it's a hoax. I don't think it is, okay? And we have visual proof that it's not by a credible government agency. The funny may get cut, but that's the way it goes, I guess, right? And then we have something coming up here from Robert Kagan.
But then, of course, there's all the
Dictator.
things that he did in his first year, which we've sort of gotten used to.
First year, second term.
Second term, first year, second term, 2025, which is the remarkable, and I got to say, it will go down in history as really a remarkable destruction of the government. That his turning the Justice Department into his personal legal weapon, his turning the CIA into his personal organization, his using the FBI to go after enemies and solidify his position in power. These are all textbook actions of a dictator. He doesn't want to allow any pluralism in this country. He doesn't want to allow any dissent. You know, the way they talk about protesters as domestic terrorists, that's Stalin territory that you're in. So, I mean, it's almost there are too many things to list, it seems to me, that make him really not a would-be dictator, but really a dictator at this point.
Hey, Alex Preddy and Renee Good, you remember them, the victims of a dictator? They got shot, okay? Both of them. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. The FBI will not cooperate. The FBI will not cooperate with the Minnesota investigation into that shooting, okay? That's a sign of dictatorship. You know, when somebody dies, we got to figure out why and whether there's any legitimate to prosecution. Within minutes, J.D. Vance was on a microphone, on a video, announcing that these were domestic terrorist people. And that's a lie. None of that's true. And that's all part of the brainwashing. Saying it 1,000 times, it becomes the truth. Robert made mention to Joseph Stalin. You know, Karl Marx started the Communist Party there, and Joseph Stalin took it over. And, you know, Karl Marx, he killed the royal family. And then when Joseph Stalin took over, he was a terrible dictator, okay? Kagan's protesters as domestic terrorists. They don't. Current administration does not want to allow anybody to protest against the government. That's why we have ICE, and you're going to see ICE in all likelihood come out, and they're going to be at the voting stations in different states. Potentially, when Democrats are going to try to discourage people from voting in many, many ways. So they don't. The current administration will not tolerate protesting. And that's our First Amendment right. We should be able to protest. If we don't like the government, that's what America's all about. So anyway, that's my feeling on that. And then we got weaponizing the Department of Justice. Jonathan Cowell, an ABC reporter, had something to say about that.
Donald Trump is now upset with his own Justice Department. Why? He is complaining that they have not been aggressive enough in prosecuting his political enemies. He's made this complaint directly to the senior leadership of the Justice Department, including the Attorney General. And the Wall Street Journal is just now reporting that last week there was a meeting of U.S. attorneys gathered at the White House. Here's a picture from that meeting. It was posted by one of those U.S. attorneys. And Donald Trump complained to the group of them, saying that they were weak and ineffective. At the core of his complaint is that not enough of his political enemies have been arrested or subject to prosecution and indictment. Reminder, we've seen James Comey indicted. We've seen Tish James indicted. Both those indictments thrown out by the courts. And of course, John Bolton indicted and facing prosecution right now. That apparently is not enough for Donald Trump. And by the way, right after that meeting, after he complained that his U.S. attorneys were being weak and ineffective, one of them sent those subpoenas over to the Fed, to Jerome Powell.
What John Carl is describing is the totalitarian government, the types of government that are effectively run by dictators like Russia, China, North Korea dictators. They get away with murder, because they have votes, right? But they always win 98, 99% of the votes. I mean, it's always a landslide for those guys. It's amazing how popular they are in their countries, I guess, Unfortunately, Jonathan Carl, he wasn't speaking about Russia, China, or North Korea. He was speaking about America. That's how bad America's gotten, okay? In the last few years, it's gone crazy. Absolutely terrible. The citizens in the United States of America, we need to band together and reject the dictatorship before it becomes, before it takes over and changes everything in the country. And let's not forget, in the 1930s in Germany, what happened there, it can happen here. Germany was pretty much a democratic republic, so to speak, and Hitler took over and changed everything, became a dictator, and you saw what happened. It was just horrendous things happened to the Jews that were like unbelievable. You just can't make that stuff up. And people that are dictators, quite frankly, in my opinion, they're very, very evil people. So you don't want evil people running your government. So take a look at them. If they're a good heart, you vote for them. If they look like they're going to be evil, you can't vote for evil people because they're going to ruin our government. And Ryan Nobles had something to say about this on NBC as well.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. This does appear to be the latest blow to keeping the Justice Department independent from the White House. President Trump ramping up the pressure on his attorney general, insisting that she go after a list of his political opponents. It happened over the weekend in a Truth Social post where Trump directly addresses Pam Bondi, writing that, quote, nothing is being done at the Justice Department and that they can't delay any longer because it's killing our reputation and credibility. Now, these comments appear to be Trump's most explicit demands yet, that Bondi target his political enemies, referring to former FBI Director James Comey, California Senator Adam Schiff, and New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Okay, Department of Justice. That must be the most independent organizations we have in the federal government. They're the law enforcement folks, right? They can't be serving a particular individual's personal needs, okay? They got to deal with justice, laws, crime, whatever. Their responsibility is do what's right for Americans, okay? The current Department of Justice consists of the president's 3 former personal attorneys that he used: Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, and Lindsay Halligan. Okay, now, we know the Pam Bondi's gone, but unfortunately I was preparing this before she left. But she's now gone, and Todd Blanche is now acting head of the Department of Justice, the former Trump personal attorney. These actions put, democracy at risk, okay, without a doubt. If a president is being served as a dictator, things are going to change, and there's no enforcement of the laws that should be enforced. And these folks do not serve the best interests of Americans. And Jesse, could you, Lindsay Halligan, we have something on her to come up?
Yeah. Yeah, here we go.
And President Trump says he's appointing one of his former defense attorneys to lead a federal prosecutor's office in Virginia. Lindsay Halligan represented Trump during the classified documents investigation. In a series of posts on social media, Trump said the U.S. Attorney's Office needed a tough prosecutor in order to, quote, get things moving. The previous head of that office, Eric Siebert, resigned last week under pressure from the administration to prosecute New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Okay, she's the only one that would prosecute her. All the other people in the Attorney General's office refused to prosecute her. So she was appointed, and she ran on a and proceeded with the prosecution of Letitia James. The case had no merit. Lindsay Halligan was improperly appointed to her role, and basically the case got thrown out. He said it had no merit. Jesse, do you want to take a break here for
Sure.
For some sponsorship?
Yeah, let's take a quick commercial break. This is Wake Up America with Bill Crafton. We'll be right back.
They're coming. The Blue Angels will roar over the skies of Vero at the Vero Beach Air Show, presented by Piper Aircraft Inc. See, hear, and feel the power of the Blue Angels, the MiG-17, and the McCart Jet Motorsports Home Wrecker Jet Truck. Saturday and Sunday, experience the dazzling fireworks extravaganza on Friday night. The Vero Beach Air Show, May 15th, 16th, and 17th. Presented by Piper Aircraft Inc. Get tickets online at VeroAirShow.com.
Welcome to 9 to 5, the musical, where the coffee's strong and the women are stronger. And their boss, Mr. Hart, well, he's a little high-strung, shall we say? Based on the smash hit movie 9 to 5, the musical is a hilarious story of female friendship and delightful revenge. Come meet the whole gang. 9 to 5 is now playing at the beautiful Riverside Theater in Vero Beach. Get your best tickets now at the box office or riversidetheater.com.
Okay, hey, we're back. I want to move on and see something the president said. I consider this an authoritarian state, / dictator when the leader of a country does this.
This treason idea goes back to the time Trump was first elected, when his administration was under FBI investigation for collusion with Russia. The FBI director then was James Comey. Trump fired Comey in 2016 and now is using the U.S. Justice Department to try to put Comey in jail. Trump recently sent this Truth Social post to Attorney General Pam Bondi demanding that Comey and others be prosecuted, saying they're all guilty as hell.
The president claims a person is guilty before a trial. That's what a dictator does. In the United States of America, the judicial system is responsible for try somebody. They got to have enough evidence to think they're going to get a conviction. They bring them to court, they try them, and somebody decides, either a judge or a jury, that they're guilty, not the president of the United States. And the president of the United States saying this guy is guilty is trying to influence jurors, and it's very, very dictatorial. So it's not the America I grew up in. It's not the America I like living in today. So anyway, that's what I have here. And I want to hear from Columbia University's Tim Napoli, if we've got him, Jesse.
Using the U.S. Justice Department to exact revenge on political enemies runs counter to the notion that American justice must be blind to politics, that justice must be fair. Tim Naftali is a presidential historian at Columbia University.
This president of the United States has taken it upon himself to erect a structure at the Justice Department that enables him to go after his perceived enemies. In our system of government, there has to be a trial, and our peers decide if we're innocent or guilty. If powerful people say in advance that we're guilty, that means that we don't have justice, which means we are veering towards an authoritarian state.
I can't agree with that gentleman more. I mean, Columbia University, I was lucky to get out of high school, Jesse, never mind being a person at Columbia University, right? Hey, the Department of Justice and the military, right? These two organizations, they got to be blind to politics. They have jobs to do, and they should be doing their jobs, regardless of what the political views are of people serving in particular positions. When a dictator orders investigation into individuals for purpose of political revenge. We, as Americans, we should be rejecting this all the time. It's and if we got to vote them out, we got to vote them out. But that's the only way we can reject it. I can stand here and cry about it, but it's the vote that counts, and your vote will count coming up in the next election. If Americans allow this to happen, we're going to be just like Russia, China, North Korea, a dictatorship. And this is how we allow a democracy to change into a dictatorship, by letting this stuff happen. So we have to stop it, and the only way we can stop it is at the polling booth. Let's hear from James Comey, the guy that was chased around by president to put him in jail.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. This case mattered to me personally, obviously, but it matters most because a message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. I don't care what your politics are, you have to see that as fundamentally un-American and a threat to the rule of law that keeps all of us free.
I don't care what your politics are either, but basically he's right about that. Politics shouldn't even be playing into the situation. Never been indicted. And who indicted her? Lindsay Halligan, right? So all government public services, loyalty should be to the Constitution of America and the United States rather than the office holder at the time. And I don't care whether a Republican, independent, or whatever, a Democrat, I don't care. That's the way it should be. Hey, we also have this gentleman, Jack Smith, that was appointed by Congress to investigate some documents that Trump might have taken to Mar-a-Lago by mistake.
In a sometimes combative hearing on Capitol Hill, former special counsel Jack Smith standing by his past investigations into President Trump.
Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity.
The two federal cases on the president's handling of classified documents and interference in the 2020 election results, both scrapped before he re-entered the White House.
We'll go to the next one, too, Jess.
All right.
While on social media, President Trump called Smith deranged and said, quote, hopefully the Attorney General is looking at what he's done.
Do you believe that President Trump's Department of Justice will find some way to indict you?
I believe that they will do everything in their power to do that because they've been ordered to by the president.
Smith adding,
I will not be intimidated.
Yeah, well, once again, it's the president trying to influence folks basically to put somebody in jail that he doesn't like because he thinks he was done a disservice, which he really wasn't. But anyway, that's what he thinks. And the sad part, in Vero Beach, Arlene Cannon, she was a judge, right? And basically, in her findings, once this thing got all kind of squared away, he wanted to publish his final report. Now, the final report was paid for with U.S. dollars, American tax dollars, and she denied that publication of that report, okay? So anyway, we may never hear what was in there, but obviously didn't want to let it go to the public. This is a democracy. It's supposed to be a free country, but that's the way it works, okay? And I'm going to go. I got a few closing remarks I'm going to just bring up here at this point in time, if I can. And basically, it's I'll go back to the burning of fossil fuels. That endangers everybody in the country. That was in a previous broadcast. Viktor Orban, J.D. Vance, he didn't do a good job with Viktor Orban. He got slaughtered in that election in Hungary. And Iran negotiations, he's working on that too, and they didn't come to a settlement. And then besides that, we have two real estate investors, J.D. Vance, a Silicon Valley guy, right? A hedge fund manager, investor. And I thought the State Department had professional people, Jesse, to actually negotiate these types of things rather than two real estate guys and a hedge fund guy, So,
right, yeah.
So J.D. Vance seems to have failed. And my message to him, if I was Donald Trump, J.D., You're fired. And that's it for today, folks. For me, I guess. Jesse, I did it. 2450.
Nice job. All right. Podcast 11 in the books. Great job, Bill. All right. Please share this podcast and this show. And we'll see you next time, Saturdays at 2 on the Patriot, and all the time on YouTube at Wake Up America with Bill Crafton. Take care, everybody.
Jesse, fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yeah.